All right, well, it's 12 o'clock. I think we'll get started. Are you ready, Candice, for us? Okay, welcome everybody to the webinar about starting a childcare co-op in Alberta. My name is Nancy Toombs with Economic Developers Alberta. You know, you just can't underestimate the connection between high quality childcare and thriving communities, and we're lucky to have Candice Minott talking to us today about that. She is the Community Engagement Coordinator, Childcare with Co-operatives First. So Candice is going to make the presentation. We will take questions afterward. And so what I would recommend you do is just go ahead and put your question in the chat. I will monitor the chat, and Candice can answer your questions after her presentation is done. We are recording this, and we will be sharing this recording after the fact. So you'll be getting an email with Candice's contact information and a recording of this webinar if you would like further information. So we'll go ahead right now. Candice, go ahead, take over.
Thank you so much, Nancy, and welcome everyone to the webinar. As Nancy had mentioned, I'm your host, Candice Minott. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator at Co-operatives First, and this webinar aims to share key considerations when planning to start a childcare co-op and strategies for building community support and involvement, and share with you some relevant solutions for Alberta. But let's start by doing a land acknowledgement. We know that this event is taking place virtually. However, I want to begin by acknowledging that I am situated in Treaty 6 territory, home to the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Nakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis nations. We acknowledge that this land was not ceded, but that the purpose of the treaty was to ensure that the land would be shared. And if this is your first time doing a webinar with Co-operatives First, welcome again, and I'm so glad to meet you. So as mentioned before, Co-operatives First, we are a nonprofit organization based in Saskatoon, and our business development organization supports and promotes cooperatives in Western Canada. And we do this through the generous support of our funder, Federated Cooperatives Limited. And if you're working with a co-op or you're just curious about how a co-op might work for where you are, please feel free to get in touch with us. Specifically, as it relates to childcare, in 2024, we received Prairie's Economic Development Canada funding. And this funding has helped us to create much needed spaces within the nonprofit sector. And we're focused on new spaces for childcare cooperatives in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta. Just a little bit about me, my role at Co-operatives First. I am focused on client relationship management and also support of the startup cooperatives. We know that there is a shortage of quality childcare right across Canada, and this effort that we have been putting forward is to help communities and leaders like yourself, economic development officers and leaders who support communities who want to address this problem. So today I'm going to talk about how creating childcare co-ops can give a boost to Albertan communities. So did you know that 61% of children living in Alberta live in what we call a childcare desert? Now, a childcare desert is where there are 3 children for every licensed childcare space. They're competing for that space. And this scarcity underscores the critical need for more spaces and more early childhood educators. What this means is that there is a need for childcare right across Canada. If you can look at the map there, the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, they did a report, and all those brown spaces show where childcare is critically needed. And the Canadian average currently is at 46%, but as you can see, there is a need right across Canada for more spaces. I want to also share with you an example of a client we worked with in Saskatchewan. So let's look at Maple Creek, Saskatchewan. This is a small town who didn't have enough childcare spaces, and this was severely impacting their community. So to address this issue, the town of Maple Creek, the rural municipality, the First Nations, the Niconik First Nations, came together and incorporated a childcare co-op. Now, this actually was a community-level initiative, and cooperatives first helped them to get this co-op started and secure partial funding for a new facility from the government of Saskatchewan that will create an additional 42 spaces. So you may say, how can this help my community or my town? What we have known from the data, from the statistics, is that for every $1 spent on childcare in a regional economy in Canada, a further $1.38 to $2.54 is generated. And this captures the funding available. So that means that the multiplier effects for your regional economy is significant. We have also seen where women's participation in the labor force increased significantly with the introduction of $5 daycare in Quebec in the 1990s. And the less a parent needs to spend and the more women can get into the workforce, the more we can increase the productivity of our economies. Studies show also that children who benefit from early learning programs that are licensed and are of high quality have improved health, happiness, life expectancy, and up to a 3.5% increased income boost over their lifetime. So this is pretty significant. When you're looking at also attracting and retaining talent for your communities, childcare becomes a key pillar for this. We know from the COVID-19 pandemic that even though, there has been this work from home culture that has surfaced, it does not mean that you do not require childcare. So we want to ensure that part of what we are helping communities do is to provide good quality childcare that helps both the school system to flourish and also relieves the burden off of parents as well in terms of being able to do their own daily activities. However, we want to reiterate that meeting the challenge of creating licensed childcare spaces requires prioritization on your local agenda to ensure that your community benefits from this initiative, because there is a timeline for this initiative to expire. So, why childcare and why now? As we all may know, lack of access to childcare has been identified as a national problem. And the federal government has put in a number of programs to ensure that there is some focus here. So we are particularly interested in developing the not-for-profit side of the equation, opening childcare and early learning centers, and also looking at a multi-stakeholder or blended approach to community development, much like the Maple Creek example that we shared with you. So just looking at it from a national level, the Canada-wide Early Learning and Childcare Agreement was rolled out by the federal government, and the province of Alberta signed on to this agreement in November 2021. Now, this bilateral funding agreement allocated $3.8 billion for Alberta to reduce parent fees to $10 a day. Now, there has been a lot of discussion within this space because we are aware too that Alberta has a large for-profit childcare sector who is very active and very vocal as well. As mentioned before, at Co-operatives First, we are focused on developing non-profit spaces. So as a part of the mandate, the government of Alberta has to create 42,500 new nonprofit spaces by 2026. That's when the agreement sets to expire. And promising developments also in March of 2024, the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, CMHC, has been tasked with providing an additional $1 billion in loan grants for more childcare spaces to be created right across Canada so that this critical shortfall can be addressed. So in Alberta, what does this funding provide? Now, the goal is to get that parent fee down to $10 a day by 2026. Typically, parents in Alberta now spend an average of $45 a day on childcare. However, as it relates to space creation funding, that's creating new spaces, the government of Alberta will give up to $5,000 to $6,000 per licensed spot. So this is capital grant funding to assist with space creation. Now, they do provide ongoing operational support. So there are affordability grants, there are subsidies for lower-income families, and there's a wage top-up mechanism for staff. So quite a comprehensive program. But in terms of new spaces, there is a range of up to $5,000 to $6,000 per licensed spot that is available. So for those of you not so familiar with the co-op concept, you may be asking, so what is a co-op? Well, a co-op is an incorporated business. It's owned by a group of people who have a shared goal, and they also share the benefits of the business. A cooperative is an ideal model that we have found works for a multi-stakeholder approach, especially if it is that you're trying to incorporate your municipality, parents. In some communities, there are also institutional partners, whether it be large agricultural companies, maybe the health sector, who have workers too, who will also want to partake in good quality healthcare. So a cooperative model helps if you have multiple stakeholders who want to have some input in developing childcare in the community. However, no one entity or one person wants to be tasked with managing the childcare center. So it's a good fit we have found in our experience because it's owned by the community members, by the local entities, and by parents. All the members are owners, and they're able to make decisions at an ATM because cooperatives operate off of a one member, one vote governance structure. Of course, with a not-for-profit, the community needs are held at the highest level over individualized profit. So you may be asking now, how can I get started? What we encourage all our economic development partners to do if your community has come to you with concerns, have some engagement with them, start the conversation with your local government. If you do have institutional partners or entities that also you would like to either invite to the table, bring everyone together from the start, from conception, because you find that there are going to be some funding gaps that will need to be filled, because of course the government grant funding will not will not be able to really facilitate 100% if you're doing a new construction, new build or renovation. So it helps if you have other stakeholders at the table who may be willing to give a contribution or can offer their skills, their technical expertise, and that can add value to the cooperative. We recommend that you compile a steering committee of at least 3 individuals. It can be individuals or entities. And typically, this steering committee goes on to form your board. Once we start with your coaching process here at Cooperatives First, we will take you through looking at how you can now create a business plan and operationalize. And you'll be looking at really sourcing potential staff, looking at spaces. So there is help out there, and we can support you in this process as well. So as I mentioned before, how can Cooperatives First help? We offer incorporation support. So for groups who may not have the knowledge, the wherewithal, we can support in incorporation. We also support in terms of community assessments. If it is you need to do feasibility studies or you need to assess the needs of the community, we can also do that. We also, what we like to call, prepare groups to be investment ready. You will require additional financing, and as a board, the cooperative will need to decide whether they will pursue grant funding or financing through a financial institution as well. So through our business coaching, we help you to prepare a business plan, an operational budget. And what this does is that it helps you to be in a position to access financing. So you can go to a financial institution and let them know what your business is about and how it is that you will be able to pay back this financing. We also help with facility planning and support. There are communities who are in different stages of readiness. Some communities can facilitate a ready to build type of facility. And we do have supports there where we can also help you to access that type of operation. If it is you want a scalable business building plans, we can also help with that as well. We also have extensive governance support. So for groups who may not have been on boards before, this is their first time creating a board and need a little support in terms of governance, we have training for that. And we also provide operational guidance as well. So we are happy to help and happy to support groups that are interested in reaching out to us and starting cooperatives. Just to let you know that our services are at no cost to our clients. However, we do require that you intend to incorporate as a cooperative, and we will help you through this process. So thank you all for your keen attention. And at this time, we'll take questions. I'll turn it over to Nancy, who will assist me in that area. Thank you so much.
Candice. Excellent information. Thank you. We do have some questions popping up in the chat. And one of them is, what is the source of this $45 a day figure about the average cost that parents are paying?
Okay, so as I had mentioned to you before, the Canadian Centre for Policy is where I got those figures from. I can also share that source with you. That is a group, it's a non-aligned group that has done extensive research on childcare across Canada. They have one of the most comprehensive research studies that they've been doing for the past 20 years. So that's where I got that source from. I will also see if I can pop it in the chat for you as well. But they do have extensive resources on each province as well. So
And-
it's a very good resource I would recommend.
And a follow-up question to that is, what year is that data based on? Do you know that off the top of your head, or?
Okay, so in terms of their last report, it was in 2023.
Okay. Mhm.
So that's where I would have gotten that information from.
Great. Now, one question, another question is that part of the challenge is finding enough qualified staff. And do you have a program that addresses that?
Well, in terms of directly, no, we do not have a program that addresses finding the staff. However, what we encourage our clients to do is use the available channels. So for each province, there are designated learning institutions focus on early learning and childcare education. What we do is that we encourage you both to start dialoguing with them and also start speaking to persons within your community who may already have certification. So for the childcare centers, an ECE level 3 is required for your center director, and a mix of EC level 2s and 1s as well. You can have support staff who may not have this qualification. However, it's very important for you to start that dialogue early. Reach out to the learning institutions within your community, and that's how we guide our clients as well.
So it's a prioritized activity then. That should be, one of the first things that you do, perhaps.
Correct. Yes.
Another question was, could you please state again the dollar amounts provided by the provincial federal government and what the stipulations are on accessing those finances?
Okay, so thank you so much for that. I'll just go back. So in terms of Alberta, what is provided? This is specifically as it relates to the space creation funding. So this is if a community wants to build, renovate, or purchase property for childcare. It is up to $5,000 to $6,000 per license spot. Right? So in terms of what criteria the government of Alberta uses to determine that amount, we've entered into discussions with them, but we're still not clear in terms of the criteria that will give you 5,000 as opposed to 6,000. However, they have indicated that that is a range between 5,000, anywhere from 5,000 to $6,000 per license space. That's if you're creating new childcare spaces. They also have on the Government of Alberta website breakdown as well in terms of the other grant sources that are available. The operational grants, affordability grants is very extensive. They have for-profit as opposed to not-for-profit as well grants there too. All right, but all of that information is available on the Government of Alberta website.
Now, is navigating that part of the service that Co-operatives First, helps clients with, helps people with?
Yes, what we do is that we provide you with business coaching. So we have a workbook that is tailored to really get you to finalizing a business plan. Part of this will go towards filling out your grant application to the Government of Alberta as well. Also, in terms of your operational budget, we also provide some templates which we use in the business coaching that will help you to determine your expenses and give you a good working budget as well. So that's a part of the process and what we provide in terms of our services.
Question I had is, how long does this process take from idea and some of the initial steps that you indicated to children walking through the door?
And that's a great question, Nancy. I can tell you about our clients here in Saskatchewan. We have had clients that have taken varying times. We have the fastest, I would say, got through the door in 8 months. So this was going through the business coaching, submitting the grant application to the government of Saskatchewan. They also purchased the facility and were able to open in 8 months. We do have some clients who plan to build. And once you're approved for that grant funding, you will have to look at getting your building codes passed and all that regulation. So it really depends on what direction the cooperative wants to take, whether they want to build, whether they want to purchase, or do they need additional financing. These factors can also increase your timeline.
You had indicated that the timeline for the process or accessing the programs is limited. How long are the programs expected to be available?
They're expected to, well, the Canada-wide Learning Childcare Agreement expires in 2026. So we are encouraging groups that if it is, you see a need in your community and you want to access this funding, now is the time for you to start preparing your applications. Preparing the applications, depending on the readiness of the group, it may take anywhere between 3 to 6 to 12 months. So, you really want to be able to be in a position to submit that application so that you are not left out.
Another question in the chat was if you could please clarify what role is meant by support staff. Are those folks working with the kids directly, or is it admin, or what is support staff?
Okay, so that's an excellent question. All right, so when you're looking at your childcare center, the government of Alberta will have requirements as to, how many staff members are required, what level of licensing is required. However, in terms of support staff, you can think of it as you may want to hire a cook, you may want to hire cleaning staff or ancillary staff, or maybe it is someone who is going to be there to give a hand to support the teachers also. So that too will be factored into your operational budget. Some persons choose to maybe have a third party run a canteen or have a cook on staff. Now, these are decisions that a board will have to make. And sometimes it does help as well if you have 1 or 2 persons who can support your trained teachers. So, the support staff can entail any one of those individuals that I mentioned before.
And just a reminder as well that your presentation will be available to everybody after the fact. I'll send out an email before the end of the week with your presentation and also a link to this recording. Anybody else have any other questions for Candice? I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. I'm just scrolling through. Oh, there's one more here. Getting community interest and support in smaller communities will likely be the biggest hurdle for many of us. Do you have any suggestions for engaging rural communities which have historically focused on senior citizens?
I think that is an excellent question. What we encourage our economic development partners to do is to have some dialogue with your municipality, your council members, and in terms of your overall plan for development for that town, looking at, are you looking to invite new business into the community? These are questions that they may be asking you as well. Do you have childcare? How is your school system? So you want to be able to also have your community leaders be aware that if this is part of our strategic plan to invite persons into the community, invite business into the community, also in terms of encouraging young persons to stay within the community and also to raise their families, It's really a means of highlighting that this is a group that you can't ignore. And if it is that we're going to grow our community, then we need to pay attention, one, to our youth who are coming up, who may be starting families. And also, if you're looking for investment and companies to enter the community as well, then this is an issue that your municipality, your city council, your mayor, will need to get ahead of. So as a part of your strategic planning and as a part of your discussions with your rural municipality, with your council members, this is a discussion that you should bring to the fore. So that would be the first step. Another thing that we have seen rural municipalities do as well is also, you can do a survey. You can really put it out to the community themselves to determine, is there really a need for childcare in the community? Because what you find sometimes too is when you have a group discussion, you may have louder voices who overpower, maybe those moms who may not get a chance to voice their concerns. So if you can do a community survey, get some good participation there, then you'll have numbers, you'll have statistics that you can bring to the municipality and say, hey guys, this is an area that we're not paying attention to, but there is a need here as well.
So for the people on the call who want to collaborate with you moving forward, they reach out to you, and you're in Saskatoon. So would you collaborate virtually, in person? What would be the best method?
Okay, thanks for that, Nancy. So my contact details are on the screen now. You can reach out to me via email. Typically, we can set up a Zoom call or Teams, whichever one works for you. If it is that you need us to also talk to your community leaders, we are open to doing that either virtually or in person. And also what we have done with some communities as well, who have recognized that there are institutional partners who are coming into the community, and they're also trying to negotiate childcare as well for their employees. So once we have you as a client, we will also support in those discussions with institutional partners who may want to give a stipend for childcare, may want to get involved in that discussion. So we are open to doing this virtually or in person, but reach out and we're very flexible. We'll have that dialogue to see if the cooperative model is a right fit for your community.
And one final question is there an Alberta location? Could that be an option for some folks here?
In terms of cooperatives first, no, we do not have a location in Alberta, but as mentioned before, we are neighbors here in Saskatchewan. So, where the need is, that is where we're mandated to go. And we're really focused on ensuring that persons in rural municipalities, Indigenous communities, also get a chance to access this funding. So if this fits your town, feel free to reach out to us. This is a part of our mandate as well. We want to ensure that persons in rural communities, remote communities, Indigenous communities also have access to this federal funding program and that the provinces are rolling out. Okay, so feel free to reach out to us.
Excellent. Okay, one final question. Although we do have some. This person says, when they came onto the call, you had mentioned you were working specifically for nonprofit, and then there was mention of an incorporation. So what do you work for the for-profit folks as well, or is it nonprofit, or how does that work?
Excellent question. Thank you for that, Nancy. So our mandate is to focus on not-for-profits, cooperatives. We do recognize that there is a large for-profit childcare sector in Alberta. However, part of our mandate is to help in the creation of not-for-profit childcare spaces. So answer to your question directly, no, we're not working within the for-profit sector at all. We're not focused on day homes. We're focused on not-for-profit childcare centers.
So could that also then, could the before school and after school care, could that also apply to this model, or how does that work?
That could apply as well. Currently, we're working with a group in Manitoba, actually, who is doing a before and after care program as well.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Going once?
I just want to say thank you so much, Nancy, for, allowing us to have this access, and to everyone on the call today. Feel free to reach out to us. We will share further details, and I'll follow up with Nancy regarding those questions as well.
Absolutely. So yes, look for an email in your inbox in the coming days with contact information, presentations, that kind of thing. So thank you very much, Candice, and to everybody who joined today. It was great. It was a great meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. Thanks, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye-bye.